When you think of classic Western TV, Rawhide instantly comes to mind, a show that launched Clint Eastwood into stardom. But behind the familiar face of Rowdy Yates was another actor who carried the series with a gritty, powerful presence, Eric Fleming. Most fans remember him as a tough, no-nonsense trail boss Gil Favor. But what if I told you there's a side to Eric Fleming in Rawhide that almost no one knows? A story filled with tension, mystery, and tragedy that shakes up everything you thought you knew about this legendary show. This isn't just a look back at another Western star or a nostalgia trip to TV's golden era. It's an untold story about a man whose real life was far more complicated than his on-screen cowboy image. Eric Fleming was more than a rugged actor riding the cattle trail. He was a figure caught in the crossroads of Hollywood's harsh realities and personal demons. And the truth behind his story reveals how fame can sometimes come with a steep price. Rawhide was beloved for its exciting cattle drives, dusty landscapes, and the camaraderie of the crew. But beneath that iconic opening theme, tensions were simmering. Eric Fleming's intense performances masked deeper struggles that many fans, and even some insiders, never saw. There are rumors about what really went on behind the scenes. Conflict with producers, battles over creative control, and the brutal demands of filming a hit Western every week for 6 seasons. And then there's the question that has puzzled fans for decades. Why did Eric Fleming leave Rawhide when the show was still riding high? Was it just a career move, or was there something darker? The answers are complicated and reveal cracks in the seemingly perfect Western world. His departure changed the course of the show, and some say the fate of his own life. But Eric Fleming's story doesn't end when the cameras stop rolling. His life took a tragic turn shortly after leaving Rawhide, a shocking accident far from the Hollywood spotlight that left fans stunned and the industry mourning. Even today, the circumstances around his death and the pressures he faced remain subject to speculation and fascination. This video isn't just about retelling history. It's about uncovering the layers of a story that's been buried beneath decades of Western dust. What really happened to Eric Fleming? How did the making of Rawhide shape his life? And what does his legacy mean for the shows and stars that came after? You're about to hear the truth behind Rawhide's untold story. The one Eric Fleming might have wished you knew. Get ready, because this ride to the Old West has plenty of surprises, and it's nothing like the cowboy tale you expected. Eric Fleming's journey to becoming the rugged trail boss on Rawhide wasn't a typical Hollywood fairy tale. Before he stepped into the boots of Gil Favor, Fleming was a man shaped by hardship and determination, a sharp contrast to the polished stars we often see on screen. Born in 1925 in Minnesota, his early years were marked by struggle, losing his father young, moving around, and working tough jobs that forged his gritty spirit. This real-world toughness would later bleed into the characters he played, making him more than just another cowboy on TV. His path to stardom wasn't immediate or easy. Fleming didn't grow up dreaming of Hollywood glitz. He started in theater, refining his craft in small roles and taking every opportunity to prove himself. His rugged good looks and raw intensity caught attention, but he was known for something deeper, a seriousness about his craft that many actors lacked. When Rawhide launched in 1959, it wasn't just his looks that made him the perfect fit for Gil Favor. It was the authenticity he brought, the way he made the character more than a simple Western archetype. Gil Favor was the backbone of Rawhide, the steady hand guiding the cattle drive, a leader with a tough exterior but a complex interior. Fleming didn't just act a part, he embodied it, giving the show a pulse that resonated with audiences. But behind the scenes, he was also a private man who kept much of his personal life under wraps. His intensity on screen mirrored a certain intensity off it. A man deeply committed to his work, but struggled with the pressures that came with being a leading man. Clint Eastwood's rise as Rowdy Yates often overshadowed Fleming's contributions. But fans of the show know that it was Fleming's presence that gave Rawhide its grit. Where Eastwood was the impulsive, youthful energy, Fleming's Favor was a steady, commanding force holding everything together. Their dynamic made the show a hit. But Fleming's career was about more than just Rawhide. Before and after the show, he appeared in various films and television roles. always bringing that unmistakable edge. Still, success on TV didn't come without sacrifice. The demanding schedule of Rawhide meant long hours in challenging conditions, hot days, dusty sets, physically exhausting stunts. Fleming's tough exterior hid the toll this took on him, both physically and mentally. This wasn't the glamorous life some might imagine. It was relentless, grueling, and pushed many actors to their limits. And while he played the leader on screen, off-screen, Fleming's relationship with Hollywood was complicated. The industry was changing, and actors like him, who brought a serious, nuanced approach to their roles, often found themselves caught between being typecast and trying to break out. Fleming's rise was impressive, but it came with a shadow of uncertainty and a restless desire for something more. This restless spirit, combined with the pressures of fame and the demands of Rawhide, set the stage for what would come next. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling? What struggles did Fleming face behind that stoic cowboy mask? The story takes a darker turn, one that few expected, and even fewer were ready to hear. The polished adventure of Rawhide on screen masked a much rougher reality behind the camera. Eric Fleming's time as Gil Favor was far from easy, and the challenges he faced went beyond the grueling cattle drives and demanding schedules. Behind the iconic scenes was a world of tension, conflict, and personal struggles that shaped the man we barely got to know. Fleming's reputation as a serious, intense actor sometimes clashed with the Hollywood machine. Producers want a certain formula, a charismatic, easy-to-like lead who fit the mold of the typical TV cowboy. But Fleming brought a darker, more complex energy to the role, which didn't always sit well with those running the show. Rumors swirl about disagreements between Fleming and the producers over the direction of the character and the show's tone. Some insiders say he wanted to explore more depth, while others want to keep things light and simple for the audience. The pressure cooker of weekly shooting was relentless. Rawhide was one of the most demanding productions of its time, with 39 episodes a season and shoots that stretched over long, exhausting days. Fleming was known to push himself hard physically, performing many of his own stunts, but the constant strain began to take a toll. Injuries and exhaustion were common, and his health reportedly suffered as he battled through the grind. Some say the wear and tear led to mood swings and frustration, which didn't help his already tense relationships on set. Behind the scenes, Fleming was also dealing with personal battles. While not much was publicly known during his lifetime, later accounts suggest he faced emotional struggles, possibly depression, fueled by the pressures of maintaining his tough cowboy image while grappling with real vulnerabilities. It said that the Hollywood lifestyle wasn't easy for him, and the disconnect between the man and the character he played became increasingly painful. One lesser-known but telling detail. Fleming had a rocky relationship with Clint Eastwood, who was rising as the breakout star of Rawhide. The dynamic between the two wasn't always smooth. Eastwood's youthful charisma contrasted with Fleming's intense, brooding presence, and some reports hint at rivalry and friction, both professionally and personally. This wasn't just a friendly co-star relationship. Tensions simmered under the surface, adding another layer of complexity to the show's behind-the-scenes story. Then there were the grueling conditions on location. Filming Rawhide meant working in harsh environments, often in the blazing heat or freezing cold. Injuries were part of the job, and the cast had to endure physically demanding scenes that few outside the industry could imagine. For Fleming, whose style was hands-on and committed, this meant risking his safety to make the story believable. The pressures built up quietly, but they were there, influencing how he approached the role and life off-screen. All this paints a picture of a man caught in a difficult balancing act between his artistic ambitions, the harsh realities of television production, and his own personal struggles. It was a world far removed from the dust-swept trails and heroic moments audiences loved. But Fleming's challenges on Rawhide were just the beginning of a story that would soon take a turn that shocked everyone, raising questions about fame, mental health, and the price of living up to a legend. When Eric Fleming suddenly left Rawhide after 6 successful seasons, fans were left stunned. The show was still a hit, and his character, Gil Favor, was the steady heart of the series. So why walk away at what seemed like the peak of his career? The truth behind his departure is tangled in rumors, creative battles, and personal struggles that few outside his close circle ever understood. One of the biggest theories centers on creative differences. Fleming reportedly grew frustrated with how the producers handled Rawhide. He wanted more control over his character, hoping to add depth beyond the surface cowboy persona. But television at the time was very formula-driven, and producers were focused on keeping ratings high with familiar storylines. This clash over artistic vision created tension behind the scenes, and likely pushed Fleming to consider leaving. But it wasn't just creative clashes. The physical and mental exhaustion from the relentless shooting schedule had begun to wear on him. Filming a weekly Western in tough conditions took its toll. Long days under the sun, performing demanding stunts, and constant pressure to deliver made the job grueling. Fleming was known for throwing himself fully into his work, but that intensity sometimes left him drained and isolated. Those close to him whisper about mood swings and signs of deep fatigue that couldn't be ignored. There's also speculation about personal battles, though rarely discussed publicly. Later accounts hinted that Fleming was grappling with emotional challenges, possibly linked to depression. Maintaining the tough cowboy image for years may have created a disconnect between who he really was and the character audiences loved. It said this internal conflict grew harder to bear as time went on, making the idea of stepping away more appealing. Rumors even floated about health issues and injuries sustained during filming, which may have contributed. Westerns were notoriously hard on actors, with Fleming known for performing many of his own stunts. Wear and tear from the demanding physicality could have made continuing untenable. And then there's the complicated relationship with Clint Eastwood. As Eastwood's star soared, some say Fleming felt overshadowed, feeling a mix of frustration and resentment. While Eastwood's youthful charisma was gaining momentum, Fleming's role felt less valued by comparison. This dynamic might have added to the pressures pushing him toward leaving. When Fleming finally exited Rawhide, it wasn't just a career move, it was a breaking point. His departure sent shockwaves through the fan base and the industry. The show continued without him, but many agree it lost something vital. Fleming's commanding presence and nuanced performance have been the glue holding the story together. The mystery around why he left Rawhide has only deepened with time, and no single explanation tells the whole story. It was likely a mix of professional frustration, personal exhaustion, and a search for something beyond the confines of a hit TV show. What happened next, though, was far more tragic and unexpected, marking the end of a chapter none saw coming. Just a year after leaving Rawhide, Eric Fleming's life came to a sudden and shocking end. Far from the Hollywood lights, in the remote wilds of Peru, what was supposed to be another exciting chapter in his career turned into a heartbreaking tragedy that stunned fans and colleagues alike. Fleming had been cast in a new film, a gritty adventure set against the rugged landscapes of the Amazon. Eager for a fresh start and ready to prove himself beyond the Western genre, he threw himself into the project. But the production faced numerous challenges, from harsh weather to difficult terrain, and Fleming was in the thick of it, working with the same relentless drive he'd brought to Rawhide. Then came the fatal moment. During a river scene, Fleming's canoe capsized in the strong currents. Despite his swimming ability, he struggled against the swift, dangerous waters. Reports say he was swept away and tragically drowned. The news shocked the entertainment world. A promising actor with a powerful presence, taken far too soon. Friends and fans mourned, but few could grasp how sudden and tragic his passing was. The tragedy raised questions and whispers about the risks actors take behind the scenes, especially in adventurous, high-stakes filming. Some speculated whether exhaustion, injuries from previous work, or even emotional strain played a role in the accident. While the official cause was a drowning, the shadows surrounding his last days added layers of sadness to the story. Eric Fleming's death was a harsh reminder of the fragile line between on-screen heroics and real-life danger. He had survived the physical and emotional toll of years on Rawhide, only to meet an untimely end far from the comfort of the studio. His passing left a void not only in the world of Western TV, but among those who admired his dedication and raw talent. The aftermath of his death stirred a complicated legacy. Though Rawhide had been a major success, and Fleming its driving force, his untimely demise cast a somber light over the show's history. Fans remembered him not just as Gil Favor, but as a man who paid a steep price for his career. It was a loss that echoed beyond Hollywood, touching anyone who knew how fragile life could be behind scenes. In the years since, Fleming's tragic end has been revisited in documentaries and fan discussions, often with a sense of what could have been. His story serves as a cautionary tale about fame, risk, and the hidden struggles many actors face when the cameras stop rolling. But the story doesn't end with his death. What Fleming left behind, the impact on Rawhide, the complicated memories and the questions about his life, continues to spark curiosity and debate. There's more to understand about this untold chapter, and what followed shaped how fans and the industry remember him. Eric Fleming's sudden death might have closed the final chapter on his life, but his influence on Rawhide and the Western genre runs deeper than most realize. For decades, his legacy was overshadowed by Clint Eastwood's rise and the show's continued run, but fans and historians have slowly started to uncover the true mark Fleming left behind, a mark that's more complex and compelling than just the face of a TV cowboy. Fleming's portrayal of Gil Favor wasn't just about being tough and authoritative. He brought layers to the character that gave Rawhide a unique edge. His version of leadership was flawed, sometimes haunted, and intensely human. In many ways, he set a new standard for Western heroes. Characters who were more than simple good guys or bad guys, but real people struggling with their own demons. This nuance influenced later Westerns and even modern TV shows that aimed for more grounded storytelling. However, despite the subtle depth, the industry often preferred to pigeonhole Fleming. Typecasting was a huge barrier. After Rawhide, he struggled to land roles that allowed him to escape the shadow of Gil Favor. His range and seriousness as an actor were frequently overlooked, and this frustration may have contributed to his decision to take riskier projects, like the film he was working on in Peru. In recent years, documentaries and interviews with those who knew him have begun revealing the emotional toll that fame and creative constraints took on Fleming. His personal struggles with pressure, exhaustion, and perhaps loneliness paint a picture of a man who was as complicated off-screen as his characters were on-screen. This human side of Fleming is what fans today find most captivating, a reminder that the legends we see are real people with real vulnerabilities. There's also been renewed interest in the darker stories behind Rawhide's polished exterior. Fans discuss the production difficulties, the clashes between actors and producers, and how these tensions shape the final product. Fleming's role as both a creative force and a troubled soul behind the scenes adds layers to the show's history that rarely get acknowledged. In a way, Fleming's legacy is an example of Hollywood's dual nature. The glitz and glamour on one side and the personal battles, sacrifices, and often forgotten hardships on the other. His story urges us to look beyond the surface, to understand that the faces we admire often carry stories the camera never captures. And while Rawhide continued without him, many argue it lost its heartbeat after Fleming's exit. His absence left a gap that was never quite filled. The show shifted toward a lighter tone, less grounded in the grit and complexity Fleming had brought. This shift is a reminder of how vital he was, not just as an actor, but as the soul of the series. Eric Fleming's Untold legacy lives on in the fans who remember the real man behind Gil Favor, and the actors who followed and took inspiration from his approach, and an evolving story of Western TV. He wasn't just a character on a screen. He was a pioneer of a more human, layered storytelling style that continues to influence television today. Eric Fleming's life and career weren't just defined by his impressive performances or a tragic end. Over the years, whispers and rumors have added a layer of mystery and controversy to his story, elements that make his tale even more intriguing and, at times, unsettling. One persistent rumor involves the nature of Fleming's departure from Rawhide. Some insiders suggested it wasn't just creative differences or exhaustion, but tension so severe that he was essentially pushed out. Stories circulated about clashes with producers who didn't appreciate his demands for a more serious, gritty show. These behind-the-scenes battles paint a picture of a man fighting not just for his career, but for the integrity of his work. It's a fight that likely left him isolated and frustrated. There were also darker whispers about Fleming's personal life. Some speculate he struggled with bouts of heavy drinking, which may have been an attempt to cope with the pressure and emotional pain. Hollywood was no stranger to this kind of coping mechanism, especially in the 1950s and 60s when mental health support was scarce. Although nothing was ever officially confirmed, the rumors add a tragic dimension to his off-screen life. Further adding to the intrigue are the stories about his relationship with Clint Eastwood. While their on-screen chemistry was undeniable off-screen, the two reportedly had a strained and competitive relationship. Some say there was jealousy on both sides, Eastwood's rising star casting a shadow over Fleming's established role, and Fleming feeling sidelined. These rumors fuel speculation that the tension between them contributed to Fleming's decision to leave the show. Even after his death, Fleming's legacy has been the subject of debate. Some fans and commentators question whether production was properly prepared for the dangers involved in filming in remote locations like Peru. Was the accident truly unavoidable, or was there negligence? These questions, while never officially answered, linger in conversations among fans and industry insiders. Additionally, there's a speculation about the impact of Fleming's mental and emotional state leading up to his final days. Some suggest that the stress of his career struggles, combined with personal demons, might have contributed indirectly to the tragedy. While it's important to approach such topics sensitively, these rumors highlight the darker side of Hollywood fame. How success can sometimes mask pain. What makes these controversies compelling isn't just the drama, but how they reflect the complexity of Eric Fleming's life. Far from a simple hero or victim, he was a man caught in the pressures of an unforgiving industry and his own inner battles. These stories remind us that fame often comes with unseen costs, and that sometimes the truth is tangled in whispers and shadows. Despite the rumors, what remains clear is that Eric Fleming's life and career left a lasting impact. The controversies add depth to his story, making it not just a tale of a Western star, but human drama filled with ambition, conflict, and tragedy. Eric Fleming's journey is a story of grit, talent, and a haunting mystery that still resonates decades after his tragic end. From a tough upbringing to becoming the stoic lead of Rawhide, his life was anything but ordinary. He wasn't just a cowboy on screen. He was a man battling the pressures of fame, creative conflicts, and personal demons behind the scenes. His departure from Rawhide wasn't just about leaving a TV show. It was a turning point shaped by exhaustion, frustration, and a desire for something more meaningful. That decision led him to new opportunities, but also to his untimely and heartbreaking death in Peru. The accident not only shocked the industry, but left a void that Rawhide struggled to fill. Yet, Fleming's legacy isn't defined solely by how he died. It's about the depth he brought to his characters, the realism he introduced to Westerns, and the raw authenticity that made him stand out in a genre often filled with stereotypes. His story highlights the cost of fame and the hidden struggles that come with public success. The rumors and controversies add complexity, reminding us that behind every star is a human being with vulnerabilities. They show how Hollywood's bright lights can cast long shadows, often hiding pain beneath the surface. Fleming's tale is a powerful reminder to look beyond the screen and appreciate the full story, both the triumphs and the trials. For fans of Rawhide and lovers of Westerns, Eric Fleming remains an unforgettable figure, a pioneer who changed how heroes are portrayed. His life and career inspire curiosity, empathy, and respect for the man behind the myth. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Eric Fleming's untold story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more fascinating stories from Hollywood's past. What do you think was the most surprising part of Fleming's journey? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.